Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Words of Ages. Today we are going to be talking about how we can alter our habits and our life in small, perhaps a couple of numbered steps. Remember that in life, if there is no struggle, there is no progress or purpose. So we all experience struggles, albeit in different ways, but some are seemingly insurmountable. Others like your and mine are comparatively small perhaps, or big. Regardless of their scale, it is what we learn from our struggles that counts. Mine began while at university. Originally from a small town, the move to a big city was a scary one for me. I'm a mama's boy at heart, so I didn't deal well with being so far away from home, and I'm sort of also an introvert, so I couldn't embrace the university lifestyle of drinking to failure, so I didn't make any new friends early on. The workload was tough and the course content didn't inspire me a lot, I had never really been considering what I wanted out of life, but I quickly discovered that rocks and history weren't part of it. Still, I pushed through partly because I was stubborn, but mainly because I was scared to fail. As I said, my struggles weren't monumental. My first world problems pale in comparison to others, but at the same time it was hard to see past them. I felt trapped and stressed out. As a coping mechanism for the stress, I turned to my safe haven: sports, martial arts, football, weightlifting, anything that allowed my brain to shut off temporarily. What started as an escape quickly became unhealthy. Training sometimes 3 times a day was only adding to the problem, and eventually things broke down. I started developing a mouthful of painful ulcers regularly, making it difficult to talk and eat. They came with bouts of fatigue and digestive issues too, and one particularly nasty flare-up led to a hospital visit. A few blood tests and examinations later, the news came back that I likely had Crohn's disease, an inflammatory condition that can affect any part of the digestive tract, from the mouth to the end. Crohn's can be pretty miserable. Oftentimes, sufferers face a lifetime of medications and surgery. I knew that wasn't a path I wanted. I decided right then, in a naive and almost boisterous manner, that Crohn's or not, I would beat this myself. I took a step back to examine the picture. In my eyes, I had these habits that were making me ill and keeping me on a path that I didn't want. To change my trajectory, I just needed to alter my habits, if only it was that simple. I soon found out the hard way that habit changing isn't the easiest pastime. After many failed attempts, I would come back to the same question: how can we create habits that are lasting rather than ones that phase out after a few weeks? Eventually, through trial and error, I was able to come up with a few answers and gradually began transforming my life. I started eating a plant-based diet and altered how I trained, which gave me more energy. I read more, worried less, and meditated regularly, which reduced my stress levels and allowed me to see more clearly the road I wanted to take. Fast forward a few years to the present day, things have vastly improved. Although I still occasionally get health issues, the symptoms are much easier to deal with. Despite repeated blood tests and investigations, I haven't been diagnosed with Crohn's disease again. Maybe it was an overzealous initial prognosis, or perhaps I dodged a bullet by changing my habits. Either way, I'm happy that I went through the struggle. It taught me a lot and allowed me to create the life I'm living today. If you're feeling a little lost right now, or you're struggling to implement changes, you may benefit from applying these 5 important lessons I've learned about forming habits. Number 1 is to start with self-acceptance. Most of us practice unconditional love towards our close friends and family, regardless of their flaws. But it's very hard to find that we show the same acceptance towards our own selves. Instead, we beat ourselves over every mistake we make and every little defect. Our big belly, our bad habits, our eating habits, our laziness, and inability to manifest change. We waste so much of our energy focusing on these things that energy could be used productively elsewhere. Perhaps the most important step in habit changing is to first accept yourself for who you are, flaws or no flaws. These imperfections are what make us human. Instead of talking yourself down, try treating yourself as you would a loved one. Be forgiving and realize that wherever you are right now, it's okay. You're more likely to succeed in making changes if they are coming from a place of self-respect rather than self-hatred. It's easy to lose sight of what's really important to us sometimes. We constantly compare ourselves to others. We get a neatly packaged glimpse into their life on social media and form a false base of an idea of perfection that we should give up. So the second point that I'm really trying to point at is determine your values. We then attempt to make a load of changes to become more like that person without considering why. We set goals that are not aligned with our values, resulting in discomfort and disease, and we never commit to them long term because they are not that important to us. Be you, not a second-rate version of someone else. First, determine your values by asking yourself a few questions. What would you do if money weren't an issue? Where are you most organized and reliable, and what do you surround yourself with? Some people value their health above all else. Others are more concerned with their family or making lots of money, or a mixture of all of the above. Whatever is most important to you, set goals that align with it. For example, if you want to eat healthy, but your highest value is caring for your family, how can you reframe that goal? Eating healthier may allow you to spend more quality time with your loved ones, or help you do a better job of looking after them. That's your strong reason why that will excite you and inspire you to move forward. Another important point we must take into account is to start small and build gradually. Willpower is not an infinite energy source, and then when forming new habits, we should avoid tapping into it as much as possible. I'm a sucker for getting overzealous and trying to make big changes at once, but rarely does this ever lead to long-term success. Lasting changes are made from many small steps added together, not from a flick of the switch. Rather than fixating on an end goal, plan your next few steps in that general direction, then execute them. If you want to eat healthy, maybe start by changing your breakfast routine and nothing else. When you're fully comfortable with that, perhaps begin to adjust your lunch. Take your time and don't be tempted to bite off more than you can chew. Commit to the long haul rather than looking for the quick fix. It's a more satisfying process, and each small step you take, you build your self-esteem and your ability to produce further change. Build a support network. I've always had the tendency to try to tackle problems on my own. I thought asking for help was a sign of weakness, but the opposite is true. Building community is an important part of forming habits. It was only when I involved others that I really started to see success. Perhaps tell a reliable friend about the next few steps you're taking with your new habit, and ask them to hold you accountable with weekly progress reports. Maybe even introduce rewards. This can give you the extra push you need to succeed. Embrace failure. Many of us grow up fearing failure. The reality is that failure can be a good thing, but we are not taught how to deal with it properly. For the most part, failure is met, in the case of young people, failure is met with the less than inspiring statement, better luck next time. They're feeling defeated and deflated with low self-esteem and nothing to act upon. You'll likely fail several times when you're changing your habits, just like I did, or just like a lot of other people might have and still do. First, realize it's okay. Those road bumps are a vital part of the learning curve and the learning process. Secondly, search for the lesson. Failure teaches us what we can do to improve so we can become better next time as an upgraded version of ourselves. Maybe it means altering your goal to make it a little easier. Make your adjustments, pick yourself up, and get back on the path to fulfilling your passions. If you have anything to add to these points, and if there is some way that you've helped change your own habits in a couple of steps, please be sure to drop in a comment. Make sure to like, share and subscribe this video if you thought what we did with this was good or bad. And please do come back for the next video. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Feel free to press the bell icon for updates.